When I was 10 years old, my father suddenly died. Right after the funeral, the family lawyer asked me one question. Do you want to go with your mother or inherit the 2 billion yuan your father left behind in my previous life? I cried and chose my mother. But the moment she got my father's compensation money, she immediately married the man next door. And from that day on, I became nothing more than a burden in their eyes. I worked like a slave for years and eventually died on a construction site at only 28 years old. Now that I think back on that life, I honestly feel both pity and disgust toward my old self. I was unbelievably stupid. And now, fate had brought me back to that exact same moment again. The woman standing in front of me was crying hysterically. Her body looked so weak it seemed like she could collapse at any second. If the relatives beside her weren't supporting her, she probably would have fallen to the floor already. In my previous life, I completely fell for this performance. I thought she was truly heartbroken. I thought she couldn't survive without me, so I ran into her arms crying and begged to stay with her. But what happened afterward? She took the money my father died earning, and before even 3 months had passed, she happily remarried to the same Uncle Zhao she always claimed was helping our family. My father's ashes weren't even cold yet, and that man had already moved into our house. He started sleeping in my father's bed. Meanwhile, I slowly became unwanted trash in that home. Uncle Zhao also had a son 2 years older than me, and to make her new family happy, my mother constantly beat and scolded me. The money my father left behind became their family's luxury fund. The stepbrother used it to show off and live comfortably, while I couldn't even afford my own school fees. They forced me to drop out before finishing high school and sent me away to work construction. Their excuse was, boys should learn independence early. I spent the next 10 years carrying steel bars and cement under the burning sun, until one day, my exhausted body finally collapsed at the construction site, and that was how I died. Now, standing here again, I watched everything with cold eyes. At that moment, my father's best friend and personal lawyer stepped forward. He placed a heavy hand on my shoulder and slowly took out a document. Lilan, this is your husband's will. His voice sounded extremely serious. Ning prepared for every possible situation before his death. He left behind property worth 2 billion yuan, and now there are 2 options. The entire room instantly became silent. The lawyer continued. First, if Xiao Yi chooses to stay with his mother, the money will remain under her control as compensation and guardianship funds until he becomes an adult. The moment those words fell, my mother's breathing instantly became heavier. A terrifying greed flashed through her eyes. She stared at the will like a starving wolf staring at meat. Then the lawyer calmly continued. Second, if Xiao Yi chooses not to stay with her, the entire fortune will be transferred into a trust fund managed by me, and every single cent will belong only to Xiao Yi. She will receive nothing. The atmosphere in the room froze completely. Everyone's eyes slowly turned toward me. A 10-year-old child. My mother's entire body stiffened. She looked at the lawyer in disbelief, like she couldn't accept such an option even existed. But in the very next second, she immediately switched back into her crying act. She tightly hugged me and sobbed loudly. Lawyer Joe, how can you even suggest something like that? How could a mother ever abandon her son? Xiao Yi is my entire life. While pretending to cry, she secretly squeezed my arm painfully and whispered into my ear, if you say anything stupid, I'll kill you. You're my son. Your money is my money. In my previous life, I was terrified by those words, and when she cried about not being able to live without me, I believed her completely. But now, all I felt was disgust. I could clearly feel her hands trembling, not from sadness, but from greed and excitement. 2 billion yuan, an amount she had never even dreamed of before. Right now, she was probably already imagining the luxury life she'd live with Uncle Zhao after getting the money. Slowly, I pushed myself out of her suffocating embrace. Then I raised my head and looked directly at Lawyer Joe. In front of everyone, I calmly said, Uncle Joe, I choose the second option. I want the 2 billion yuan. The entire hall instantly fell dead silent. A silence so deep, you could hear a needle hit the floor. Everyone stared at me in shock. Meanwhile, the fake grief on my mother's face completely shattered, and in its place appeared pure rage and disbelief. Subscribe for part 2. His mother is about to realize the obedient son